There have been many incredible seasons throughout the game's history, but a lot of them, for one reason or another, were not selected as the league's most valuable player. Some of the snubs are so frustrating that it's enough to make you want to pull your hair out. Speaking of which, today's sponsor is Keeps. Keeps is a subscription service that's focused to make it easier and affordable for men to treat male pattern baldness all online. It's simple. You consult online with a real doctor who you have constant access to through online messaging, and they automatically ship generic options of the FDA-approved medications. 2 out of 3 men experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time they're 35. The best way to prevent hair loss is to do something while you still have hair left. Keeps treatments typically take between 4 to 6 months to start seeing results, so it's important to act fast. The sooner you start using Keeps, the more hair you can save. So if you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/Johnny or click the link in the video description to receive 50% off your first order. That's keeps.com/Johnny and take advantage of that 50% off your first order by clicking the link below. Now before we get into the list, let me establish my one rule of this list. Each player only gets one spot on the list, so I will only rank a player's best season in which he didn't win the MVP award. This should give a nice variety to the list and make the video a bit more interesting, because otherwise 80% of this list would be made up of just 2 players. Also, these are the honorable mentions of the greatest non-MVP seasons that didn't make the list. Let me know which one of these had the best case to make it into the top 10. So without further ado, let's get into it. Number 10. Dwayne Wade in the 08 to 09 season. LeBron James won the MVP award this season thanks to his team's superior record. Not only was Wade's campaign the second best season overall that year, but it was also the best season of Wade's career from an individual standpoint, as he put up all-around monstrous numbers of 30.2 points, 7.5 assists, 5 rebounds, 2.2 steals, and 1.3 blocks on 49.1% shooting. Wade was the NBA scoring champion that season while maintaining his elite efficiency. He was also a dominant force on defense as he finished on the NBA's second all-defense team. But I would actually argue that he should have been on the first team, as Wade's 1.3 blocks was good enough to have him finish in the 16th spot among all players, and he was the only guard in the entire league to make the top 20. His 2.2 steals were second overall among all players as well. Statistically, there's very few aspects where Wade didn't dominate on the court. It comes as no surprise, as the 27-year-old was still in his prime in terms of his speed and athleticism. He would have seriously challenged LeBron for the award if it wasn't for his team's 43-39 record that season, which held his case back regardless of his individual prowess. Number 9. James Harden in the 18-19 season. As many of you already know, he narrowly and controversially lost this award to Giannis despite having one of the most dominant scoring seasons of all time, as he put up a league-leading 36.1 points, 7.5 assists, 6.6 rebounds, and 2 steals on 44.2% shooting. Let me give you a couple of facts to emphasize how historic this season was for Harden offensively. With a minimum of 50 games played, Harden's 36.1 points makes him the 3rd highest scorer of all time, trailing only seasons from Michael Jordan and Wilt Chamberlain. He had a streak of 32 straight games where he scored at least 30 points, which trails only the streak of Wilt Chamberlain. Harden also averaged 8.1 more points than the closest competitor that season, which was Paul George. The only player to have a greater margin to win the scoring crown was once again Wilt Chamberlain in 1962 and 1963. He also led all players this season in three-pointers made and in overall win shares. His 378 three-pointers made in a season is still the second most of all time. He led his Rockets to a successful 53-29 record, and when you consider all of the skills he displayed this season, in combination with all of the history he made, this will certainly remain as one of the greatest MVP snubs of all time. Number 8. Oscar Robertson in the 61-62 season. Imagine leading your team to a winning record, averaging a 30-point triple-double over the course of a season, which no other player had ever done before, and you only finished 3rd in the NBA's MVP race. That's the insanely unfortunate circumstance that Oscar found himself in at the end of the 1962 season. Other than several seasons by Russell Westbrook, this was the only triple-double average that the league had ever seen, as he finished 5th in scoring, 1st in assists, and 9th in rebounds as he led his Royals to a 43-37 record. Number 7. LeBron James in the 17-18 season. This season, Cleveland dealt with almost every form of team drama imaginable, as injuries, personnel changes, and chemistry issues plagued the team throughout the season. Despite their troubles, LeBron found a way to carry his Cavs to a 50-32 record for the 4th best record in the Eastern Conference. He did it with averages of 27.2 points, 8.6 rebounds, 9.1 assists, and 1.4 steals on a very efficient 54.2% from the field. What he went on to do in the playoffs was absolutely incredible, and if the postseason was included, this 2018 campaign would be ranked even higher. But without it, it's just good enough to make the 7th spot on my list. Number 6. Hakeem Olajuwon in the 92-93 season. It was the season before the Dream started collecting his championship rings, but from an individual standpoint, you could argue that this was the best version of him that we had ever seen, as he put up insane all-around numbers of 26.1 points, 13 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 1.8 steals, and 4.2 blocks on 52.9% shooting. His quick hands and dominant rim protection earned him that season's Defensive Player of the Year award, and the voting wasn't even that close on that one. Charles Barkley was the winner of that season's MVP award, but that was mostly due to the Suns' best record in the league, and not because of his superior production, because Hakeem certainly had the edge in that aspect. Let me put his all-around dominance in perspective. This era was absolutely stacked with big men, and was probably the strongest era of the center position that the game has ever seen. Regardless of that fact, among centers, Hakeem was 1st in scoring, 2nd in rebounds, 3rd in assists, 1st in steals, and 1st in blocks. Combine that with the skill and artistry in which he did it, and it's definitely one of the greatest MVP snubs of all time. Number 5. Kobe Bryant in the 05-06 season. The Lakers finished this season with a 45-37 record in a tough Western Conference, which is almost never enough wins to earn an MVP award. But I would argue that these Lakers had no business winning that many games in the first place. Outside of Kobe and Lamar Odom, the Lakers who started the most games were Smush Parker, Kwame Brown, Chris Mim, and Luke Walton. To simply say that Kobe carried this group would be an understatement on a biblical level. On the year, Kobe averaged a league-leading 35.4 points, 5.3 rebounds, 4.5 assists, and 1.8 steals on 45% shooting. When Kobe put up 35.4 points per game, he did it during one of the lowest scoring seasons in NBA history, as teams were averaging only 97 points per game, which means Kobe equaled 36.5% of a team's average in points that season. That's the greatest percentage of offense since the NBA merger in 1976. Not only was he a one-man show on offense, but he was the best defender at his position, as he made first-team All-Defense. Kobe is the only player in league history to officially average over 35 points per game while also making first-team All-Defense in the same season. Throw in his iconic 81-point game, 55 points and a half, and 62 points in 3 quarters, and I'm very comfortable putting this season in the top 5. Number 4. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the 72-73 season. Dave Cowens of the Boston Celtics was awarded that season's MVP in large part as a reward for their 68-14 record. Kareem's Bucks had an inferior 60-22 record, but by just about every individual metric, he was on a level above Cowens, as Kareem put up 30.2 points, 16.1 rebounds, and 5 assists on 55.4% shooting. Block shots were not officially tracked until the following season, but over those next 7 years, Kareem averaged 3.5 blocks per game, so it's probably fair to guess that his average was around the same this season. He was by far that season's leader in both win shares and in player efficiency rating. Maybe voter fatigue played somewhat of a part that season, as this would have been Kareem's 3rd straight MVP award. But no matter how you look at it outside of the team's record, he was easily the greatest player that season. Number 3. Larry Bird in the 87-88 season. Michael Jordan won the award in 1988 and had arguably the greatest MVP campaign of all time. And unfortunately for Larry, he had his personal greatest season that same year, and with this same performance, Larry would have won the MVP in 95% of the other NBA seasons. He led his Celtics to the first seed in the Eastern Conference with a record of 57-25. On the year, he averaged about 30 points, 9.3 rebounds, 6.1 assists, and 1.6 steals on 52.7% shooting. Offensively, this was among the most efficient seasons of all time, as Larry had well over 50-40-90 percentages, which only 9 players have ever done in NBA history. And other than Steph Curry in 2016, no one has ever averaged more points than Larry did while eclipsing 50-40-90 percentages. This perimeter efficiency wasn't without volume, as he was 5th in field goals attempted and 4th overall in three-pointers attempted. As far as the regular season goes, this was the very peak of Larry Legend's powers. Number 2. Michael Jordan in the 88-89 season. Magic Johnson certainly wasn't a bad choice to win the MVP in 1989, as he put up strong numbers and led his Showtime Lakers to the best record in their conference. But this was also one of the best versions of Michael Jordan that we had ever seen from an individual standpoint, as he poured in 32.5 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, and 2.9 steals on 53.8% shooting. In the final third of the season, Doug Collins moved Jordan to the point guard position. During that time as the point guard, Jordan had a streak where he had 7 straight triple-doubles and 10 triple-doubles in 11 games. That 7 straight triple-doubles is a streak that's only been eclipsed by Russell Westbrook and Wilt Chamberlain. As usual, Jordan was also the best defender at his position as he made first-team All-Defense. On the year, he was first in win shares, first in player efficiency rating, and first in plus-minus. There's almost no aspects where he wasn't dominating the opponent this season. Number 1. Wilt Chamberlain in the 61-62 season. The top spot comes as no surprise, as Chamberlain's greatest season featured averages that would be difficult to eclipse even in video games. Other than a game where he was ejected by the ref, he played in every single minute that regular season, and he destroyed his opponent on a nightly basis as he averaged 50.4 points, 25.7 rebounds, and 2.4 assists on 50.6% shooting. No one else has ever averaged over 40 points in a season, and Wilt Chamberlain eclipsed 50. Also, no one has ever averaged as many rebounds as Wilt did this season. I could go on and on, giving incredible facts about this season, but the truth is, it would take too long and isn't completely necessary, as the majority of Wilt Chamberlain's greatest achievements came from this season, including his 100-point game in Hershey, Pennsylvania. We don't have his official blocks averages this season, but based on the fact that he later averaged 8.8 per game in his twilight years, there's a real possibility he averaged double-digit blocks this season to go along with his other goofy numbers. Despite being on a less talented squad compared to the other teams atop of the league, he was still able to lead his Warriors to a 49-31 record, and as a result of all of this season sits comfortably as the greatest non-MVP season of all time. Do you agree with the list? Is there any great seasons that should have been on it? Let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.